From the moment you were born, the world began shaping how you see reality. But what if the version of reality you've been given isn't the full picture? What if what you've been taught was never meant to help you understand your power, but to hide it? You didn't come into a neutral, unbiased world. You came into a system, a carefully filtered version of reality. A world that taught you to only trust what you can see, touch, or measure. And in doing so, it trained you to ignore the very thing that makes you powerful, your connection to energy, intuition, and the unseen. You've been told that you are just your body, your brain, and your five senses. That if you can't prove something with data or measure it with tools, it must not be real. But the truth is, the most important parts of life can't be weighed or touched. Love, creativity, intuition, that gut feeling you get about people or decisions. These things don't show up on a graph, but they shape your entire life. They are part of something deeper, something science is only beginning to recognize. There is an energetic field that surrounds you and flows through you at all times. It's not science fiction, and it's not wishful thinking. This field influences how you feel, what you attract, and how you interact with the world. You felt it, even if you didn't have the words for it. When someone walks into a room and the vibe changes instantly, when your chest tightens because someone's words don't match their energy, when you have a sudden insight out of nowhere, those are all signs of the field at work. This isn't about candles, rituals, or crystals. It's not about joining a religion or adopting a new belief system. It's about remembering something ancient, something your body and spirit already know. The energy field has been called many names: ether, source, shit, the collective unconscious. But one of the most powerful ways to understand it is through the concept of the AKASHIC field. This is a living, intelligent field of energy that stores every thought, feeling, and event across all of time. It's like the memory of the universe, and you are already connected to it. You don't have to be a monk or a mystic to tap into it. You don't need special powers. You already have the ability, you were just never taught how to use it. That's by design. The world you live in has been structured to keep you focused on the physical and disconnected from the energetic. Why? Because people who understand their energetic nature are not easy to control. They don't fall for manipulation. They don't chase external validation. They become calm, focused, and powerful. From a young age, you were trained to believe that real knowledge comes from outside of you. From books, from teachers, from experts. But you've had moments in your life where you just knew something without being told. Moments when you felt energy, noticed patterns, sensed danger, or received insights that felt like they came from somewhere beyond your own mind. Those weren't accidents. They were signals from the field, from the part of you that's always been connected to something bigger. Think about it. Have you ever walked into a room and felt instantly drained, even if no one said anything? That's not just your imagination. It's your energy reacting to the space. Have you ever met someone and felt an instant connection or discomfort? That's not random. It's energetic alignment or misalignment. We've all felt this, but most of us were told to ignore it, to call it coincidence, or worse, nonsense. But these experiences are real. They are part of the invisible language of energy we were all born understanding before we were trained to forget. Even modern science is starting to catch up. Institutions like HeartMath have shown that the human heart emits an electromagnetic field that changes based on your emotions and can be measured several feet outside your body. Other studies show that brainwaves can sync with sound frequencies and affect how we think and feel. None of this is mystical anymore. It's measurable. But you still won't see it in school textbooks. Why? Because people who know how to control their energy don't need to be told who they are. They know. Your thoughts aren't just private. They're energetic frequencies. Your emotions aren't just reactions. They're vibrations that shape your field. Everything you think and feel sends out a signal, and that signal interacts with the world around you. When you're angry or stressed, your energy becomes chaotic. When you're calm and clear, your energy becomes coherent, and the field responds to that. The world around you begins to mirror what's happening inside of you. You may not realize it, but you've been using this field your entire life. The difference is, now you can begin to use it consciously. That means becoming aware of how your thoughts, emotions, and intentions affect your energy. It means learning to listen to the quiet nudges of your intuition, rather than drowning them out with mental noise or external pressure. When you do this, life starts to feel less random, more connected, more alive. The AKASHIC field is not reserved for spiritual gurus or people on mountain retreats. It doesn't care about your background, your belief system, or how many books you've read. It simply responds to presence, to clarity, to the willingness to be still enough to hear its signals. When your internal state becomes balanced and focused, the field begins to open. Information comes in. Insights surface. Things begin to make sense, not because you figured them out, but because you remembered. This memory doesn't come from your brain. It comes from the field, and it arrives as intuition, synchronicity, or sudden clarity. You might call it a gut feeling, a knowing, a dream that sticks with you for days. These aren't random events. They're moments when you're aligned enough to receive, to download, to reconnect with something deeper than logic. Across history, different cultures describe this field in different ways. In ancient India, it was called AKASHIC, the subtle element that holds the memory of everything. In Egypt, it was the memory of the gods. In Greek mystery schools, it was the great unseen. In modern times, people like Nikola Tesla, Carl Jung, and Edgar Cayce all spoke about a field of intelligence beyond space and time. They weren't guessing. They were tuning in. Today, scientists working in quantum physics are beginning to describe the same thing. Theories like the holographic universe, quantum entanglement, and zero-point energy suggest that space isn't empty, it's filled with data, information, energy. Sound familiar? That's the AKASHIC field, wearing a lab coat. The truth is, we're starting to see that ancient wisdom and modern science are not in conflict. They're two lenses looking at the same reality. So what does this mean for you? It means you are not powerless. You are not broken. You are not stuck. You are simply out of sync with your own signal, and that can be changed. The field isn't judging you. It's not punishing you. It's simply responding to the frequency you're sending out. And the good news is, you can change that frequency with awareness, with focus, with practice. This is why learning to manage your energy isn't some strange spiritual hobby. It's the foundation of a more empowered life. When your inner world becomes calm, focused, and intentional, your outer world begins to reflect that. People show up at the right time. Opportunities unfold. Resistance fades. Life starts working with you instead of against you. You begin to notice patterns. Your intuition sharpens. Coincidences become too meaningful to ignore. That's the field speaking back to you. That's what happens when you remember how to tune in. The truth is, you were never meant to be disconnected from this. You were born tuned in. Watch any child before the world trains it out of them. They feel everything. They sense energy. They speak truth without filters. They imagine freely and trust their inner knowing. But slowly, that connection is replaced with rules, labels, expectations. They're taught to ignore their own inner compass and follow the crowd. And that's how the system survives, by keeping people in mental noise, in self-doubt, in confusion, Because a person who truly listens to themselves is powerful. A person who understands their energy can't be easily fooled or led astray. That's why we created Insights Academy, a space where the deeper truths that can't be shared on mainstream platforms are brought into the light. Not as dogma, not as belief, but as experience, as practice, as knowledge you can feel in your body. When you sign up, you're not just getting information, you're getting a reminder, a remembering. You weren't meant to feel lost. You weren't meant to chase clarity. You were meant to broadcast it, to tune your frequency with intention and let the field echo it back in ways more intelligent than any plan you could come up with. Reality isn't something that happens to you. It's something you're in constant communication with. The question isn't whether the field is real. The question is, are you listening? They told you to trust the system. Do what you're told. Stay in line. Don't ask too many questions. And especially, don't listen to that quiet voice inside you. You've seen it in movies and shows your whole life. The heroes don't pause to reflect. They don't meditate or ask for guidance. They act. They follow orders. Even the ones with spiritual powers, they're usually outcasts, crazy, or used for comic relief. These aren't accidents. They're messages designed to work beneath your awareness. And they've been working. Every time you felt something, a gut feeling, a strange knowing, but ignored it and looked at your phone instead, that voice got quieter. The connection grew weaker. You weren't just taught to ignore your inner voice. You were trained to drown it out with noise, to fear silence, to think that your depth and stillness were strange or uncomfortable. And it didn't start and end with TV or school. The way we talk also plays a role. Think of all the times someone told you, that's just your imagination, or you're too sensitive. These phrases seem harmless, but they rewire your mind. They teach you that your feelings aren't trustworthy, that what you sense isn't real, that the chills running down your back, the tightness in your chest, the sudden pressure in your head are just quirks or emotional reactions. But those were signals. Subtle ones, yes, but real, and you were trained to tune them out. Even science, or at least the version of it we're allowed to see, plays its part in this. It sticks to safe, predictable, physical explanations of reality. Meanwhile, the more advanced and mysterious areas, like quantum physics, are ignored or mocked in public. Yet in the quiet corners of science, some experts talk about things like quantum entanglement, the observer effect, and how consciousness might actually shape physical matter. These ideas challenge everything we've been told. Because if consciousness comes first, if the mind shapes reality instead of the other way around, then the whole structure built around control, hierarchy, and dependence falls apart. That's the real reason this information is hidden. Not because there's no evidence, but because the truth is dangerous to those in power. If people realize how powerful their thoughts are, how deeply they're connected to the world around them, they become harder to manipulate, harder to control. You've probably felt this in your own life. Moments of deep intuition, dreams that predicted something, déjà vu that felt like more than a glitch. But you brushed those moments off. You told yourself it was nothing. You learned to trust the world outside more than your world within. That's the deepest form of control, when you start censoring yourself from the inside. But the truth is, your connection never left. The field, this unseen intelligence that connects everything, never stopped speaking to you. It's there in every quiet moment you've ignored. Every time you got a feeling and didn't act on it. Every time something strange lined up too perfectly to be random. That was the field. And it's still waiting. Reconnecting with it isn't about learning something new. It's about unlearning the lies. It's about remembering what your body already knows, trusting what your spirit never forgot. Once you start tuning in again, even just a little, the world starts to look different. You begin to see patterns where there was once chaos. You feel a quiet presence where there was once emptiness. Slowly but surely, you begin to remember you were never disconnected. You were only distracted. Most people are taught that thoughts are private, that they live in your head and disappear if you don't act on them. But that's not true. Thoughts are energy. Every thought you have carries a frequency. That energy doesn't stop inside your skull. It moves outward. It shapes your surroundings. It influences the field. This is why your thoughts matter so much. Whether you realize it or not, you're always sending signals, creating, attracting, repelling. That's also why the system floods your mind with fear, confusion, and doubt. Because if your thoughts are energy, then constant fear means constant energetic instability. A distracted, fearful thinker is weak, fragmented, easy to exhaust, easy to control. You don't need physical change when people are mentally and emotionally scattered. Keep them doomed scrolling the news, comparing themselves on social media, absorbing stories that keep them in fear and shame, and they'll do the rest on their own. But once you understand that thought is not just mental, it's energetic, you begin to take it seriously. You stop casually letting your mind run in circles. You stop feeding worry, resentment, or guilt, not because you're trying to be positive, but because you know that every thought is a transmission. And the field? It listens. Even more powerful than thought is emotion. Thought alone sends a signal, but thought with emotion sends a command. That's what shapes reality. And that's why so many of us get stuck. You can say affirmations all day long, but if the feeling underneath is fear or doubt, the field picks up the fear, not the words. This is why real change takes more than just saying what you want. It takes alignment. It takes coherence. You have to feel what you want before you see it. You have to be what you want to experience. And that takes discipline. Not the harsh kind, not force, but a steady choice to direct your thoughts and emotions on purpose. To notice when you're spiraling into fear and pull yourself back. To choose thoughts that match the future you want, not the past you're trying to escape. Most people shy away from the word discipline because it sounds restrictive. But in truth, mental discipline is freedom. It frees you from old loops. It frees you from the thought patterns that keep you stuck. It gives you the ability to shift your energy, to change your frequency so you can change your life. Because the field doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. It listens to your dominant energy, your most frequent signal, not your words, not your wishes. And when your energy is scattered, when your thoughts are uncontrolled and your emotions are on autopilot, you're not creating anything consciously. You're reacting. You're leaking power. This is why shallow affirmations don't work for most people. You can say, I am enough, or I am successful. But if you feel doubt or fear in your body while saying them, you're sending a mixed signal. And the field will reflect back the stronger one, which is usually the fear. The goal isn't to fake positivity. The goal is to become energetically clear. To be so aligned in thought and feeling that what you send out is clean, strong, and unmistakable. When that happens, your reality starts to respond. You'll see synchronicities, unexpected openings, the right people showing up at the right time. Not because you're lucky, but because you're finally tuned in. This isn't magic. It's resonance. You're not forcing life to bend to your will. You're harmonizing with it. And the science? It's real. It's just been kept quiet. In the 1980s, the CIA ran a project called Gateway to study altered states of consciousness. They weren't trying to meditate for fun. They were exploring out-of-body experiences, time distortion, and how thought affects reality. What they found was that human consciousness isn't limited to the brain. It extends beyond it. It interacts with information in ways that we still don't fully understand. Institutes like HeartMath have shown that the human heart creates a powerful energy field. This field changes with your emotions. And more interestingly, it influences people around you. Your emotional state is not private. It's a signal, and other people feel it, even if they don't know why. Quantum physics has proven that particles can be connected across space without touching. That when one changes, the other responds instantly. This is called non-locality. If that's true for particles, what does it mean for people? For thoughts? For memories and emotions? The ancient wisdom spoke of these things too. The AKASHIC field, prana, the universal mind. These weren't fairy tales. They were maps, ways to navigate energy, consciousness, and creation. But as modern systems rose, we traded this wisdom for machines, for measurements, for systems we could control. And slowly we forgot. We forgot how powerful we are. But the truth is breaking through again. The more we look, the more the lines blur between science and spirit, between thought and form, between intention and result. You are not a passive observer. You're not just reacting to the world. You are shaping it. Every moment, every thought, every feeling. You are part of a living, intelligent field. And that field is listening. You don't need permission to connect with it. You just need to remember how. Everything around you starts to change when you understand that your inner world is not just a reaction to life, but a powerful force that shapes it. The thoughts you hold, the emotions you feel, and the energy you carry are not invisible background noise. They are signals. And those signals are constantly interacting with what many call the AKASHIC field, a subtle, intelligent layer of reality that responds to the frequency you emit. This field doesn't care about your background, your beliefs, or whether you follow any spiritual path. It doesn't require rituals, robes, or a life spent in retreat. What it does require is clarity. In today's world, that's harder to find than it sounds. We're constantly pulled in different directions by devices, distractions, pressure, and noise. Yet the field isn't lost. It's simply quiet. It's not absent, it's waiting. And to connect with it, you don't need to try harder. You need to become still enough to notice. For many, this shift begins with a deep realization. Nothing outside you holds the power to define your path. Once that truth lands in your body, not just in your mind, you stop looking outwards for control. You start aligning your inner world instead. And that's when real transformation begins. The AKASHIC field doesn't shout to get your attention. It doesn't compete with the flood of information, endless scrolling, or the constant push to stay busy. It speaks in subtler ways, through the spaces between thoughts, through your breath, and through moments of still awareness. When you slow down enough, you begin to hear it again. You begin to remember what presence actually feels like. This isn't about being perfect or enlightened. It's about becoming available. And despite what you may have been told, you don't need to be anyone special to reach these states. You already touch them every day, in those final moments before falling asleep. When you're completely absorbed in something you love, when time disappears as you lose yourself in music, creativity, nature. In these states, your brain waves slow down. You move out of the surface level beta state and into alpha, theta, or even delta. These frequencies allow you to drop out of mental noise and into a receptive state where your ego quiets and your subconscious begins to open. The field doesn't respond to pushing. It responds to tuning. That's why alignment matters more than effort. One of the simplest and most powerful ways to begin this tuning process is through your breath. Breathing deeply and with intention does more than just calm your nerves. It grounds you. It brings your scattered awareness back into your body. It slows your thoughts, calms your system, and connects you to the now. And the present moment is the only place the field can meet you. Not in the past, not in the future, only here where your attention rests. Once you're anchored in the now, the next step is intention, but not in the way most people think. It's not about forcing an outcome. It's about becoming clear. When your mind is calm and your emotions are balanced, you naturally start to send a clearer signal. The field responds to this signal. It doesn't answer mental noise or desperate begging. It listens to energy, and energy doesn't lie. If you're holding fear or trying to control the outcome, you create static. But if you approach with curiosity, openness, and a willingness to receive something new, you become magnetic. You become a match for insight. That insight might come as a feeling in your gut, a sudden knowing, or a vivid mental image that appears out of nowhere. This is how the field often speaks, not in words, but in symbols and sensations that your inner world recognizes. Symbolism plays a key role in how the subconscious communicates. This is why visualizations, shapes, sounds, and even dreams are so powerful. They speak the language of your deeper self. They help bridge the gap between your everyday awareness and the vast intelligence of the field. These symbols aren't magical on their own, but when used with clear intention, they become tools for tuning in more deeply. In the beginning, you might not feel anything. That's completely normal. You've spent years, maybe decades, attuned to the rhythm of distraction. It takes time to recalibrate your inner state. But every time you sit in stillness, breathe intentionally, or choose awareness over reactivity, you're training yourself to listen. The more you practice, the more you start to notice subtle changes. Ideas might begin to arrive before the question even forms. A sense of direction might arise without logic to back it up. And when you follow that intuitive nudge, it often leads somewhere unexpectedly perfect. These moments aren't accidents. They are signs that your frequency is becoming clearer and that the field is responding. Sometimes this connection happens when you least expect it. During a walk through nature, while taking a shower, during intimate connection, in moments of vulnerability or honesty. These are times when your guard drops and your awareness becomes soft. You're not overthinking. You're simply being. And in that state, alignment becomes effortless. As your connection deepens, your entire view of life begins to shift. Things that once felt confusing now seem obvious, not because the outside world has changed, but because you have. You're no longer standing outside of life, trying to analyze it. You're inside it, flowing with it. This isn't about becoming superhuman. It's about coming home to your natural state. A state where clarity is normal, where your reactions are slower, and your choices feel more alive. You begin to trust what you feel, even when you can't explain it. Time also starts to feel different. You may begin to sense things before they happen. You may revisit memories and see them from a completely new perspective, not distorted, but more meaningful. It's as if you're no longer limited to one single point of view. Instead, you see life as a web, connected, alive, full of patterns and deeper meaning. Old emotions may come to the surface, and this can feel intense. Buried sadness, fear, or anger might rise, not because something's wrong, but because your current frequency can no longer carry what's unprocessed. These emotions come up to be cleared, not judged. When you meet them with presence, you transmute them. You free up energy. You make space for something new. As you continue this journey, people around you may begin to notice a shift in you. Your presence feels different. Conversations get deeper. You no longer need to explain yourself. Something about your energy speaks for you. You're no longer chasing alignment. You're embodying it. This shift isn't about controlling life. It's about resonating with it. When your inner field is steady, it naturally draws in what matches and filters out what doesn't. You don't need to force outcomes. You simply hold your center. That resonance is magnetic. Your preferences may also begin to change. You might crave different foods, different company, different environments. You begin to feel when something drains you. You start choosing with awareness instead of reacting out of habit. Slowly, your whole life begins to reorganize around what feels true. And then there's intuition, the kind that's impossible to ignore. You feel something before your mind can explain it. You speak something and it happens within days. You think of someone and they reach out. These aren't tricks or lucky guesses. They are signs that your connection to the field is alive and working. You are in tune. This journey isn't about becoming someone new. It's about stripping away what's false and remembering who you really are. The Akashic field isn't far away. It's not a secret space only for the chosen few. It's a mirror that reflects back whatever you consistently carry within. And when you begin to live with awareness, the reflection becomes clearer, more supportive, more alive. You begin to experience a quieter kind of power, a deep sense of trust that doesn't need proof or permission. You stop trying to figure everything out. You start listening. And when you do, the field begins to speak more clearly. Not in dramatic visions or booming voices, but in timing, in ease, in synchronicities that feel like gentle affirmations. This is what it means to take back your inner power, to stop outsourcing your clarity, to realize that the peace, the answers, the guidance, they were never outside of you. They were waiting inside, beneath the noise. You were never disconnected. You were simply tuned to the wrong frequency. And now that you're tuning back in, everything begins to change, not with effort, but with presence. There's a reason you've never heard about the AKASHIC field in school. A reason it's been called fantasy, nonsense, or just ignored. It's not because it's false, it's because it's powerful. The idea that your thoughts, your emotions, your consciousness can influence reality isn't just spiritual poetry. It's real, and it's a truth that's been hidden from you on purpose. When you understand that your mind and energy can shape the world around you, something changes. You stop being easy to control. You stop being predictable. You stop needing approval or direction from people and systems that were never built with your freedom in mind. That scares those who benefit from keeping you small, distracted, and obedient. Ancient cultures knew about this. They talked about energy, vibration, intention, and how our inner world affects our outer world. Modern quantum science is slowly catching up, showing that even particles respond to observation, that consciousness matters. But instead of celebrating this knowledge, society covers it up. It distracts you with endless noise, fear, drama, and doubt. The world you live in is carefully designed to keep you out of touch with your true power. Your attention is pulled in every direction. Notifications, news, scrolling, buying, comparing. You're always plugged in, but rarely connected to yourself. You're taught to look outside for answers when the real power has always been inside. But once you turn inward, once you start listening to your intuition and trusting your inner knowing, everything starts to shift. You stop reacting to fear-based messages. You stop needing validation from the outside. You stop playing by the rules that were never made for your growth. Instead, you begin to guide yourself. You trust your feelings. You follow your inner compass. And you start living in a way that feels true, real, not just normal. That kind of self-awareness is dangerous to the system we live in. Because when more people wake up to their own energetic power, They no longer buy into the lies that fuel modern life. They stop chasing empty goals. They stop numbing themselves. They stop depending on structures that want them docile, distracted, and disconnected. This is why mainstream media doesn't calm you. It keeps you anxious. It doesn't inform, it agitates. News stories are crafted to make you feel like the world is out of control, that you're unsafe, that you need someone else to save you. And when you feel scared or overwhelmed, you're easier to manipulate. Your nervous system stays on high alert, and your mind never finds peace. But if your mind did quiet down, if you unplug just enough to sit with your own thoughts, something incredible would happen. You'd start to feel again. You'd begin to notice subtle things, gut feelings, deep truths, quiet ideas that weren't given to you by an ad or a headline. You'd start creating from within rather than reacting to everything around you. The education system didn't prepare you for that. It wasn't designed to help you think critically or trust yourself. It was built to teach you to memorize, repeat, follow rules, and seek approval. It never taught you about energy, intention, or how your beliefs shape your experience. Because schools weren't built for empowered, self-aware creators. They were built for obedient workers. Even religion, in many forms, has played a role in separating you from your power. Instead of showing you that divinity lives within you, it often teaches that it exists somewhere else, up there, out there, in someone else's hands. That to be saved, you must follow rules, obey authority, and never question. But many religious texts began with deep spiritual wisdom, messages about inner light, universal connection, and consciousness. That part was pushed aside or labeled heresy because it gave people too much freedom. Science, too, has been filtered. Research that supports the power of the mind, how thought can change water molecules, how intention affects healing, how emotion shapes biology, is often ignored or discredited. Not because it's bad science, but because it threatens the story we've been told. If your mind can influence matter, if your consciousness can shift outcomes, then power doesn't belong to governments, corporations, or experts. It belongs to you. And that is something many systems don't want you to realize. You've been trained to doubt the quiet voice inside you, to mock anything that sounds weird or spiritual. But what if that inner voice is the truth you've been missing? What if the AKASHIC field, the energetic memory of all that is, isn't just a fantasy, but something woven into your very being? The more you return to your own energy, the more you begin to feel it. You sense the difference between what's real and what's programming. You start to see how often you were reacting instead of choosing. You realize that much of your life was spent chasing things, status, attention, security, not because you truly wanted them, but because you were taught to want them. When you live from your own truth, everything begins to change. You don't stop having problems, but your relationship to them shifts. Life doesn't become perfect, it becomes intentional. You're no longer pulled into every storm. You stay grounded. You respond with clarity. You make decisions from alignment, not fear. The AKASHIC field isn't some far-off, mystical place. It's here. It's now. It's in you. It's the feeling you get when something just clicks, when a deep knowing rises in your chest, when a moment feels too meaningful to be random. It's not accessed by force. It's accessed through stillness, presence, and trust. True sovereignty means you stop letting your thoughts control you. You notice them, but you don't become them. You feel emotions, but you don't attach to every single one. You start asking, is this energy even mine? You stop trying to prove your worth and simply embody it. You no longer need permission to be whole. And when you live this way, rooted in yourself, aligned with your energy, you become a signal. You become a frequency others feel. You don't need to convince anyone. Your presence speaks for you. And in that quiet way, the world begins to shift, one person at a time. This isn't about learning more. It's about remembering what was always there. You're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. You just need to return to your natural state of clarity and power. To see that you were never disconnected, only distracted. And once you feel this truth, really feel it, life opens up. Synchronicities become normal. Peace becomes your baseline. Even in chaos, you trust. Not because everything is easy, but because you're no longer out of alignment with your own source. You stop using energy tools as something outside of you. You become the tool. You are the field. And the more you live from this space, the less the world can manipulate you because you see through it. You see the fear tactics, the scarcity mindset, the constant push to be somewhere else, someone else. And it doesn't shake you anymore. Instead, you anchor into what's real, what's lasting, what's already within. If this message resonates with you, it's not an accident. It's a remembering. And as more of us remember, the world built on fear and disconnection starts to weaken. Not through protests or fights, but through presence, through alignment, through people like you choosing to live from truth, not fear. This journey isn't about becoming someone new. It's about becoming you. Fully, clearly, powerfully. The power is not out there. It's been inside you all along. And now, finally, you're remembering.